Today we're talking about job design and job redesign, both at the organisational and the individual level. When we look at job design, we get this out of the Safe Work Australia's Principles of Good Work Design from 2020. Now, job design, the most effective design process, will always begin at the earliest opportunity. And you'll remember that in my previous videos, we must take a job design approach in regards to psychosocial hazards and their controls. If we don't and we only concentrate on the individual, then our controls will fail. They won't work. We must take a job design approach as well as focusing on the individual. Now, job design gives us that best chance of finding ways to design out those hazards, incorporate effective risk control measures, and design inefficiencies. We must consider three areas: the work, the physical working environment, and the workers. So when we talk about the work, we must look at how work is performed. This includes the physical, mental, and emotional demands of the tasks and activities, the task duration, the frequency, the complexity of the task, and the context and the systems of work. In regards to the environment, we need to take into consideration the plant being used, equipment, materials, chemicals, even the vehicles we drive, the buildings and structures we work in, and that are all in our workplaces. The workers, we need to look at their physical, emotional, and mental capacities, also their needs. What needs do they have? It can radically transform the workplace. It'll benefit the business workers, clients, and others in the supply chain that we use. And failures can result in that poor risk management and lost opportunities for your business. It supports the duty holders to meet our workplace health and safety obligations, and it achieves better business. So let's have a look at job design. According to Safe Work Australia, there's 10 principles in 3 sections. Firstly, the first section is why good work design is important. So it has the why principles, and the first of the why principles is it gives the highest level of protection so far as reasonably practicable. And remember, reasonably practicable, we must take into account things like the availability of those controls and the suitability to our workplace. We shouldn't be taking into account all the time the cost of those controls. That's not reasonably practicable. We must take into account the likelihood and consequence of that risk as well. It gives us the highest practical level of protection against harm. The laws in the state protect persons from work-related harm so far as reasonably practicable. Harm relates to the possibility such as death, injury, or illness from exposure to hazards, short or long-term exposure. And we need to eliminate or minimise the source before these risks are introduced to the workplace. This is the whole reason why we need to design or redesign work. The second of the why principles, it actually enhances health and well-being. So designing that good work can help us improve health, musculoskeletal conditions, so we're not having those injuries from manual handling, cardiovascular functioning, and mental health. So our chemicals that are released during mental ill health episodes, we're not having that. Our cardiovascular functioning is at its optimum. We don't have those bodily changes, those chemical changes within our body. Good work design will optimise that worker function and improves the workers' participation. And it enables workers to actually lead a better and more productive working life. The third principle, why principle, is it enhances business success and productivity. So obviously injuries, deaths and illnesses are prevented, the associated costs are negated, improves engagement by the worker, and increases that business productivity in the long term. That well-designed work fosters that innovation within your teams. There's always continuous improvement, a desire to do better. It helps manage all the risks to business sustainability and makes the business more profitable. So that was the why principles. Let's have a look at what. So what actually is addressed? So we address the physical, biomechanical, cognitive, and psychosocial characteristics of work. And this is done together with the needs and capabilities of the people that we have doing that work. So it addresses the different hazards that are associated with work, physical and psychosocial. Those work characteristics should be considered when work's designed initially, redesigned, or the hazards and risks are assessed. So we actually look at the characteristics of that job. And these characteristics should be considered in combination, not just considered as in isolation as an individual characteristic. So we need to look at all the characteristics and how they actually affect the work. It creates jobs, that good work design, and tasks that accommodate the abilities and also the vulnerabilities of our workers. So our work is designed in a way that enables our workers to actually flourish in that job. The second WAT principle, good work design considers the business needs, the context and the work environment. So it should be fit for purpose, and it should reflect all your people in your workplace that is impacted by the organisation. Approaches really do need to be context specific. So off-the-shelf solutions may not always be the answer for you. So you really need to look at your work environment. It needs to be in context. And that environment's broad. It includes, like we said before, the structures, plant technology, the layout, the organisational design, the actual culture of your workplace, how receptive people are, human resource systems, your WHS safety processes and information and control systems. Number 6 of the WAT principles, good work design is applied along the supply chain across the operational life cycle. So our whole supply chain, the design, manufacture, the goods distribution, the use and disposal of goods, and the supply of services is applied along the entire supply chain. It's relevant also at all stages of the operational life cycle. So we're redesigning work or designing work from startup, routine operations, maintenance, our downsizing and our cessation of business operations. We need to be able to redesign work at every part of the business life cycle. New initiatives, technologies and change will have implications for work design, and these should be considered. And I want to put this to you. What about artificial intelligence? Where does that fit into our work redesign, especially around psychosocial hazards? Can we actually help people out in regards to work or role overload, loss of control? Does AI serve a need there, or can it help us achieve better outcomes? So it might be something to consider in your design processes, definitely around artificial intelligence, something to think about. Let's go on to number 7. This is the first one of the how principles. We've got to engage those decision makers and leaders. It's most effective work redesign when there's obviously a high level of commitment, and it's visible commitment. It demonstrates the long-term benefits for investing in this good work design. So, you know, we're playing a long game here with work design and work redesign. It helps engage those decision makers on the floor and our leaders. So it's a more consultative approach that I guess we need to take. Practical support for that good work design will include the allocation of appropriate time and resources, so budgetary resources as well. And it helps us undertake effective work design and redesign processes. Now, you know, not every job that we do or redesign, every system of work to redesign is going to be overly expensive. Some will be. Some may need the new plant and equipment. But that we shouldn't shy away from that, especially if we're putting people in danger in the workplace of psychosocial hazards. We need to put in controls, and remember, we need to treat the design, not the individual. So we can't put someone on resilience training and then give them more work to do. Okay, number 8, how principles actively involve the people who do the work, so including those in the supply chain and the networks. We must consult. I mean, that's the law. We must consult with workers and anyone else that could be affected by our work. And this is actually law. Okay, we must consult. We need to talk to our supply chain people, our stakeholders. They should have some say in this as well. We might want to get a subject matter expert in. We need to promote the sharing of this information, and we need to take into account all views. That's really important. Okay, number 9 in the how principles: identify these hazards, assess and control those risks, and seek that continuous improvement in your risk management system. So this is us looking for those psychosocial hazards, designing that work, and make sure that it comes into our processes, in our risk management process. And it's not just a one-off event. We actually do it every time it's required. So what I'm saying there is, when we investigate an incident or a near miss, we really must look at, do we need a redesign of that system of work that we've had that incident in. We need to continually monitor these designs and redesigns. We need to ensure that our risk management process is dynamic and we can adapt to changes in the workplaces, so we can turn left or right if we need to, and ensure the safety of our workplace. Make sure feedback's provided and that new information is used to help us improve that design. So we need to be engaged with the rest of industry. Make sure we've got best practice going on. Number 10, how principles, the last one: learn from the experts' evidence and experience. Again, engage with industry. Have a look at what's being done, who's doing what and how they're doing it. Continuous improvement. We need to collaborate with experts. We need to get good work design up and running. There are a lot of people out there that can help with good work design. We need to consult those people with specific skills, especially in the design stage. The last thing we want to do is, when we're putting in new processes, is design in hazards. For example, making the space restricted to do preventative maintenance. Therefore increasing the anxieties around the fact that we can't use equipment properly to do maintenance. Recognize strengths and limitations of people's views. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to take in every expert's view. But you must consider it at least. Near misses, injuries and illnesses, as I said before, they're very important sources of information, not only your own, but others within the industry that you work in. So we need to learn from them, we need to consult, and we need to find out what we can do to redesign work to ensure that we don't have any of those injuries or near misses or illnesses. So that's the 10 principles of good work design. It helps us achieve better safety and better business outcomes. They're deliberately high level, and the application can be unique. Like I said, you need to be in context with your workplace. Do take into account your local regulator, the jurisdictions, wherever you work. And make sure you're not introducing other hazards and or breaking the law. Well, that's it for this week. That's work redesign and job design. Next week, I'm going to be talking a little bit about stigma, and why stigma. We need to address stigma within the workplace as supervisors and managers, and why it's important around psychosocial hazards. Until then, have a great week, and we will see you next week.